Hey everyone, welcome back to Universal Orlando. It's a new week, which means new Halloween Horror Nights 2026 updates. And this week seems like it's gonna be Scare Zone week. We got the first two Scare Zones announced, so we're gonna go over those in today's video. Check up on the construction that's happened over the last few days after the weekend. And we're also gonna dive a little bit deeper into the lore and the history of one character that's gonna be back for a Scare Zone this year. All right, first little update that may or may not be HHN related is we have some construction walls just below the front arches here. And I'm curious kind of what they're doing. It's rumored that this is gonna get painted to be the same color as those white buildings, but not really sure what's going on here. Over here at the front entrance Scare Zone, which was announced. We'll talk about that in just a second. We are seeing some changes. It looks like we have some additions that have been brought out over here that are covered up in scrim. And they've also added speakers to the truss work as well. So the other day when we were here, it was just lights. Now it looks like there are 4 speakers in addition to the lights. A little bit hard to see because the whole thing is covered in this brown scrim, but it is some sort of like elevated platform you can see right there. Now, I don't know if this is just temporary or if this is something that will be here once the event opens, but yeah, these are definitely new. They were not here the other day. And by the way, just in case you guys were wondering, this plank, it meets OSHA standards, so no need to worry. So over by Minions, these trusses have been here for quite some time. This is gonna have the TVs with the wait times for the houses that are back this way. But something that is relatively new is look how close the Fast and the Furious coaster comes to this construction wall. We talked about this a couple of videos ago, but this is gonna be open for HHN. This is all dirt behind here right now. You can see just how close the coaster track is, but we'll be walking underneath that once HHN starts. And speaking of the Fast and the Furious coaster, you can see even more track that's been laid right over here. This is the former entrance to Rip Ride Rocket. We're just to the left of the stage. But yeah, it feels like every single day there's a new piece of track that's added. It's insane. So like I mentioned at the top of the video, this is Scare Zone week. We have 2 announced so far, and since we were just passing through that front Scare Zone entrance, let's tell you what it is in case you missed it. It is going to be the Infernal Carnival of Nightmares. Scare Zone announcement, Infernal Carnival of Nightmares. Jack and Dr. Oddfellow invite you to step right up and see what horrors hide in every shadow at a sinister spectacle decades in the making. And this isn't anything new. They mentioned this at the MegaCon panel. They've mentioned this before, but if you look at the key art for this Scare Zone, it spells out icon. They have the I in Infernal, the C in Carnival, bolded in red. And you may be wondering, how do I know that this is the entrance Scare Zone? Because Mike Aiello said so. On Twitter, Mike said, "Our first Scare Zone for this year announces your definitive entrance into Jack and Oddfellow's Infernal Carnival. Much like our entry into the conservatory last year, this is full of teases and surprises of what lies beyond." I really like what they did with that little front entrance Scare Zone last year. It was a really good tease of what was to come. I like that we had set pieces back over by Minions again. That's something we haven't seen in the last few years, and it finally is back again. So I'm excited to see what they do this year because it's an anniversary year. They're gonna go big, and I really, really wanna be wowed when I first walk into the park. So I have high hopes for that. And the other day when we were here, we showed these little trusses that are across from Fallon. There's 1, and then now there's 3 of them. So this one has been added. This one's much bigger. This one's got lights on the top of it, as you can see. So they added a truss with some lights, and then they have that little tiny one. Oh, we got some updates on the massive stage. So we have a whole bunch of barricading that's been added around it. I guess they don't want people getting too close, but oh my gosh, look, they added all this like distressing onto it. And now there's like a second platform, which the crux of this was here the other day when we were checking this out, but now you can kind of see the steps, those faded steps, and those balconies that are kind of off to the side. I know this is not it, but this really reminds me of the end of Ghostbusters, like when they're fighting Zool. It looks like the top of the New York apartment building, but yeah, we can get real close to it. They got the barricade, they don't want people touching it. But yeah, here's a look at all the distressing. It's all wet and kind of slimy right now from the rain, but I feel like that just plays right into the theme. Here's a look at it from the other side. You can see how it's kind of meant to look faded and cracked and stained. And they've done a pretty good job with that. And this is made out of wood. It is gonna rain, so it'll probably maybe get just like some natural distressing on it too. Here's a look at the stage from the other side. So yeah, this is a massive stage. I know everybody wanted an icon show by Nightmare Fuel, but I feel like this stage is big enough for them to do an even bigger show moment than what they've done in the past. So I'm excited for that. And we were here last in New York, and we found this mystery truss structure by Boris Schuster's office. We didn't really know what it was. There's an update now, and they've added like a little stage in front of it. So here's an updated look at that new stage that's popped up just by Transformers. So the last time we were here, or a couple times ago when we were here, they just had the truss and like the basis for the truss, but they've added a stage. And it's big enough for like a couple of performers for sure. So very, very curious on what's gonna be happening over here. It seems like the scare zones are gonna be really extensive this year. They're not just gonna be limited to like the area by the Mummy and the arcade. It seems like New York's gonna be expansive with things happening outside of the normal places where they take place. And over here in Hollywood, we now know what this scare zone is gonna be. We'll talk about that in just a second, but not noticing anything new, nothing new with this prop. Looks exactly the same, and no other major updates to call out here. Okay, we have a few minutes before the parade kicks off and has blaring music going through the park. So we're gonna hang out over here in Central Park for just a second, and we're gonna talk about the scare zone that's coming to Hollywood, because this is one that I think is gonna excite a lot of people. I think a lot of like hardcore HHN fans are gonna be really pumped about this. So the second scare zone announcement is Sideshow of Decay. Cindy's time has come. With Dr. Oddfellow's dark sorcery, she opened a portal in the carnival's junkyard, using it to resurrect decayed nightmares from the past that are back to haunt you. And then you know we have to cover what Mike had to say. Mike said Hollywood Boulevard will become Cindy's sideshow. Amplified by Oddfellow's powers, Cindy resurrects, reanimates, and reveals past terrors within our infernal carnival. There you go. That confirms that the Hollywood scare zone is what it is. And if we go back to the spec maps, it did have that Cindy and Caretaker icon on it, alluding to the fact that one or both might be showing up. And it actually was correct. I know in our last video we said maybe that was wrong just because we saw that clown and we figured like, oh, this is gonna be the clown scare zone and not over in New York. Well, now we know for sure that this is where that scare zone's gonna be. So the first question you might be thinking is, who the heck is Cindy? They didn't say her last name. They didn't say anything about her in that announcement. Mike didn't really mention anything in his tweets. So if you're a newer HHN fan, you might not have a clue who the heck Cindy is. And that's where I come in. I'm gonna be telling you who Cindy is, why you should care about her, and why this is a big deal that she's coming back this year. So first and foremost, Cindy Caine, that's her legal government name. She's the daughter of the Caretaker. Now, even if you don't know who Cindy is, if you're familiar with HHN at all, if you've seen images of some of the HHN characters, good chance you probably know who the Caretaker is. He was one of the first icons that the event had. Jack the Clown was the very first. The Caretaker was right behind him. So he's like an OG HHN character, and Cindy is his daughter. Now, Cindy was actually supposed to be the icon in 2022. There was a lot happening in the Orlando / Central Florida area that had to do with child kidnappings and abductions. So Universal was like, it's probably not a good idea for us to have a little girl as our icon for Halloween Horror Nights on a year where all this is happening. So they pivoted, and that's when the Caretaker came in. That was the first time we saw the Caretaker. That was kind of his origin appearance into the event. So Cindy was actually supposed to come first, not the Caretaker. They just had to pivot because of what was going on in the news. And it is starting to rain, so the umbrella goes up for the remainder of the video. So from the HHN wiki, here's a little bit more about Cindy. So she was housed in the Good Harvest Orphanage, where it was revealed she had supernatural powers of telekinesis, setting the orphanage on fire with her mind and killing everyone inside. It was also during this time she witnessed the growth of the Halloween tree, a twisted dead oak tree that would contain Halloween's past within its rotting bark. For the 20th anniversary year, Cindy would perform a ritual to leave the past 19 years of Halloween Horror Nights in a fiery vengeance. The branches of the Halloween tree formed XX for 20 as a warning sign for what was to come for that year's event. But once again, Cindy got sidelined and was no longer the icon for that event. Like I mentioned, Cindy was Albert Caine, the Caretaker's daughter, and they revealed this in the Scream House, Resurrection House, during the Sweet 16 year of HHN. She would appear in scare zones from that event, as well as being featured in her own house that year, the orphanage Ashes to Ashes. We then saw her again in Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem, which was a haunted house during HHN 25, and the HHN Icon Scare Zone in that same year. Most recently, she was featured in the Welcome to Scary Horror in the Hauntland haunted house. So if you looked at social media reactions once they announced that Scare Zone, a lot of people were really excited. People were like, oh my God, Cindy's back. Cindy's finally, getting a Scare Zone. Now, while she's not the official icon for this year, that's gonna be Jack and Oddfellow, she is gonna be a big part of it with that Scare Zone. So I'm very curious to see who else shows up. I have a feeling Cindy's not going to be the only icon that we see this year, especially in that Scare Zone. Good chance we're going to see the Caretaker. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of HHN characters from the past. So if you're a fan of icons, even if you're not necessarily a fan of Jack or Oddfellow, which I know most people love Jack, I have a good feeling you're gonna see a lot of other familiar faces this year. And as I'm leaving Central Park, just wanted to call out, nothing new over in that Scare Zone, the rumored Fortnite Scare Zone. We'll see if that officially gets announced this week as part of Scare Zone week, but nothing's new. I forgot to mention this earlier in the video. I got the Jurassic Park shirt on today for this visit to Universal in honor of Sam Neill, Dr. Alan Grant from the Jurassic Park films, some of my favorite movies of all time. Unfortunately, he passed away yesterday, so I had to wear this shirt in honor of him the next time I was coming to Universal. All right, it's not much, but we'll take what we can get this week in terms of HHN updates. Over in the rumored Club Horror, they've added speakers on top of the truss structure. Not a massive update, but we do have speakers now. And as far as in-park updates go, really not much left. We're kind of in the dog days of park construction. We got that one piece last week, and we're just kind of waiting for more to pop up once these Scare Zones get announced. Now, I know the question everybody has is when are Frequent Fear passes gonna go on sale? Trust me, I'm waiting for them too. I'm ready to give Universal couple $1,000s for Frequent Fear with Express, assuming the Express option comes back again. But we did get a little bit of an update on the Premier Pass holder reservation. Premier Pass holders will be eligible to make their complimentary HHN night reservation starting on July 21st after 12 p.m. And if you've ever done anything with Universal's reservation system, that basically means at 12 p.m. So if you're a Premier Pass holder, make sure you're ready at 12 p.m. on July 21st, and you'll have your pick of the litter when it comes to dates you can go to. On weeks when it's slow with HHN updates, I feel like this minion up here with the binoculars, just trying to find something new. And that's gonna do it for this week's Halloween Horror Nights video. Not the most exciting update, although we did get Scare Zones, and that's awesome. Hopefully we get the final two, and then whatever the announcement for Club Horror coming back is gonna be. Fingers crossed it has a little bit of a theme. Excited to see what they do there. But this is gonna be our last HHN video for this week. Even if they announce a house, even if they announce more Scare Zones, we're gonna be away for the next few days. So we'll be back in the parks next week, and hopefully we'll have more to check out. So in the meantime, if you don't already watch other creators, all the other Universal creators out there, make sure you check out their videos too. We work hard to bring you guys this content. It's hot out here. We all love this event. We all want to share these updates with you. So find another Universal creator, maybe that you've never watched before, and check out their videos in the meantime for sure. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you'll learn something about Cindy and the Caretaker, so that when you go through that Scare Zone, it'll make a little bit more sense to you if you're newer to the event. And I know every year there's more and more new people to Halloween Horror Nights. So I hope you enjoyed that. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a nice big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel down below if you guys are new here, especially if you love Halloween Horror Nights and Universal. That's kind of our thing. So make sure you subscribe if you're not already doing so. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.